I hate soccer.
I see. I've done enough of this to know we're good. So we're streaming. So to the world. Just kidding.
Can you explain this process to me? Like, are you paid by individual clubs? Like, if you were to branch into New York.
Yes. Which we have a team in New York now. We have New Jersey. They're in the APSL, Real Central New Jersey, and then we do have a team called Manmouth, which is it's in this new league for clubs. So.
Okay. So, if you wanted to get into the Buffalo market, like FC Berlin or FC Buffalo,
yep.
Or there's new NPSL teams like Buffalo Stallions,
yep.
And what am I thinking? The new USL project, if you're the Buffalo Pro.
Yep.
Okay. So do you just reach out to those individual clubs and try to work with them, or is it more USL2 based?
It's both, right? Okay. So we have league contracts with like WPSL. So we are in charge of every single broadcast for that entire league for the entire summer. So all 150 teams, 690 games. And then like League for Clubs, same thing. We have a league contract where we handle all of their broadcasts for their entire 45 league. They have 45 this season, and next year I think they'll have somewhere in the 50s. And then we actually reach out to individual clubs within these leagues and say, hey, would you like us to do what we're doing for this team and that team, right? And so, and to put this in perspective, is that most of these teams, as you know this, like FC Berlin you were just talking about, right. they have a women's team, they have a men's team,
right?
So, and sometimes they play in multiple leagues in those same teams. So we end up, for example, let's say FC Pride, which is based out of Indiana,
yep.
They've got a WPSL team, but they also have an NPSL team. So we'll do both of those for them. Right, so we don't the contracts with the WPSL, but we've picked up their men's team too. Right, FC Tucson, based out of Tucson, Arizona, we have their WPSL team and their USL League 2 team. Right, okay. So we're picking up teams in kind of connected, right, and then we reach out to clubs. Like we have a great relationship with the Nationals here locally in Michigan,
of course.
Right,
yeah.
And so I think last year we did 60 games for them. I think we'll do 200 games for them this upcoming year.
Do you do youth games too?
Yeah, so tonight we have Michigan Wolves and Vardar in NAL. Those teams are fighting for a playoff spot, so we'll cover both of those games. We did games for them last week and the week before that. We do high school games. We do college games. Our production company, which is Premier Media Group, which is the arm of what we do,
right.
We actually produce all the games for ESPN for Oakland University. So we handle all those games.
Is this multi-sport or is this just soccer?
Yeah, so what you're in right now and where we're at today is mainly been built for soccer, right? Soccer across the country at all levels. But we do have the ability to call any game from any sport at any time. So
I did not.
It's funny how I see your face. I see your face.
I texted Jim and I'm like, oh my God, I did not understand the scale of this production.
Yeah.
Like, what's all in that room, and how long has Premier Media Group been around?
May 2022. So, yeah. It's funny
because... This is all 3 years old?
I know, right? It's funny because I was just talking about this because I was talking with Dan Stickrat, who's our director of news, right? And Dan's been with us now for 3 years. And I look back, in 2014, it was in the summertime. You had just taken on your new job with Buffalo on the women's side. Remember?
Okay. Yep.
And so I was given a call by someone at Groves who was on part of the reached out to me and said, hey, do you know anyone who'd want to be a coach? And I said, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind putting my name in the hat for that. They offered me the job, got the job. I did that for 5 years. And when I left Groves...
You were at Groves for 5 years?
5 years, yeah. I coached there for 5 years.
I didn't realize you were there that long.
Yeah, Thank you. 14 to 19. I left in 19, and I started my own company. And during that process, I started to... kind of for marketing purposes, started my own podcast. And while I was doing that, a friend of mine who had actually was a coach at Groves at the time with me as an assistant had his women's and men's teams out at Oakland University. And he's like, hey, we were looking for someone to help us stream. Would you mind helping us? And I said, I go full disclosure. I mean, I've never called the soccer game. I've never done this before, but I'd like to give it a try. And that was 2,327 games ago or something like that. And so that's how it all started. It all started with an iPad, cell phones, and we went from all that to the full-fledged cameras and things that we do now.
All this in that short amount of time.
Yeah, actually, up until about a month and a half ago, we were just in that room.
And you expanded into here.
Yeah, we still have. What you saw when you walked in the door, we have 8 stations out there right now. We have 8 stations here. I have access to 40 virtual stations where we can just basically do everything from a cloud environment, where all of the things you see here, as far as physical, are done in the cloud. And then we'll actually end up having out in that room somewhere around 20 stations in total here in the next 2 months.
So if I had some teams in Buffalo that are looking for your services, I just put them in contact with you. And then
we're really affordable too, which is great. And then we partner with the teams because the teams, most of these teams don't make any money. Like most of these teams lose money, and they're doing it for a number of reasons. And to be fair, you have to be a little bit insane, I think, to be an owner of a team. And maybe not a little, maybe a lot of insanity, right? Because you're not making money. You're literally just throwing cash and you're burning cash. I mean, because the cost of doing this, and you know this because you have your own facility. I mean, to rent facility space in 2025, every high school in America is renting them out, and they're charging $200 and $300 an hour at the minimum, right, to rent the space, right? So that's just for a 1-hour training session. So you want 2 hours. It's going to cost you $400, $500, right? Then you want to have a game. Well, on game days, every league now requires something different from you, right? They require you to have access to a press box. They have requirements that you have to be at the field 3 hours ahead of time. So that means you now got to rent the field for 6 hours instead of just 4. Mm-hmm. So it costs you $1,000 to do a game before you ever have someone come into the stands and pay the $5 or $8 or free, right?
Yeah.
It's cost you $1,000, and that's before you ever even stepped in and played a game. Right, and so it's like so what we do with the teams is most of these leagues too mandate that you're required to stream. They make it mandatory.
Right.
Which leagues, I love the idea that you want these things streamed, and I'm telling this to you right now. So if you're listening, I think it's fantastic. I don't think you should make it mandatory that teams stream. I think what you should make it do is mandatory that there are minimum requirements if they do decide to stream.
Okay.
Well, hey, it's minimum requirements if you decide. Not you should all, because here's the problem. I know how to do this. I've done this 2,300 times. And I talk to production companies all over the country. And they all come from varying degrees of whatever. But nobody really understands the complexity of this stuff and how it's supposed to be pulled off and what goes into it. We beat our heads against the wall every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night because we're trying to get clean feeds out, and they're not clean. They're terrible feeds.
Yep.
And we're doing everything we can in our power to deliver a solid product, but we're relying on a team with a camera to deliver it to us.
Right.
And so and they don't necessarily know. They want to just do a soccer game. They just want to go coach. They just want their players to go out there and be competitive and have a chance maybe to hoist a trophy in 10 games.
Right.
They don't care about me and my streaming capabilities and what I can do. They just want their game to be streamed.
Yeah.
Because it's required.
How much homework do you, when you guys are doing the play-by-play, how much homework do you guys do on those individual teams?
Yeah.
Just so that you have background knowledge. Is that provided by the teams, or is it?
Yeah, so we ask our teams to send us information about their players. I mean, to be fair, I can tell you that with the 125 people that work for us, that a chunk of them will go through the process of trying to figure out the team and all the information and things like that. Me, I no longer have that time anymore, so I spend about 5 minutes before a game kind of just bruising through the players' names and trying to make sure I know their names phonetically. And then I'll just kind of shoot from the hip.
You have 125 employees?
We have, we probably more, not employees. We have 125 different bodies that work for us in some capacity.
And like maybe contracts and
Yep.
1099 type. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
How many games do you do? Okay, today's Saturday.
Yep.
How many games are? I saw the list out there. How many games today?
I think there's 16 today. I think there's 16. It'll be our company record for us. We've never had 16 games in a day. We've had 12. We've never had 16. So.
How did it go from podcast to local streaming to this?
Yeah, so it started because, to put things in perspective, to do this, we would go to the game. We would actually go physically there, right? And that would entail us using, big bins and taking all of our equipment. And, for 1,700 games, that's what we did. We went up and down press box stairs. I was traveling all over Michigan, and it was fine. It was great. But it was time consuming. You're getting there, you're leaving 5 hours before a broadcast, you're eating shitty food. It wasn't just a great environment. And so I'm sitting here, well, how do I do what I do without having to do as much? How can I work, smarter, not harder?
Yeah.
So we started to test, where, hey, I don't have to be there, right? So we started to test setting a camera out into the field and having a signal sent back here into this environment and then calling games. And the first one I ever did was actually at my house. It was a game, I think it was it was a NISA game. It was actually Gold Star Detroit. They had a game on a Friday night or something like that, or whatever night it was. And I was sitting in my living room. I was calling the game from my computer and was able to pull it off. Like, okay, this is way better because I don't have to do anything.
Right.
I have to carry all this gear. We send a camera operator out to the field. The feed comes back to us. All of our equipment is safe and dry and not going to get wet or blown away.
Right.
And so that started, I want to say it was like April and May of last year. And we just tested it all summer. Tested it all summer in different capacities. And once we tested it, we knew it would work in a much larger scale.
What's the highest level league that you work with? USL?
Major Arena Soccer League.
Yeah.
MASL.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, we work with USL League 2. We're in negotiations with them for a number of projects. We've done USL Academy for them. We've done UPSL National Championships. We've done 3 of those for the UPSL over the years. We've gone to California, gone to Leesburg, Virginia, and Columbus, Ohio, at the old Columbus Crew Stadium. We did that one there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Oak University with Division I athletics with ESPN, so that's probably pretty big. We work a lot of different leagues. NISA, which is obviously professional soccer. I know it's
right.
There might be some thoughts about NISA, but I mean it is professional soccer. It was sanctioned as such, and we did those games last year. So,
yeah. Man, there's so many directions that I can go with this.
I know.
And that's why it's not structured. It's just a conversation between two people.
Yeah.
And man, are you seeing that more and more want this, and even want this for their youth? Do you guys handle the streaming of just club games that maybe don't have color commentary, and like an ECNL game? Can you guys tap in and then put it out? Because not everybody puts their games on stream on YouTube so that parents can watch.
Yeah, I mean, so someone says, why do you? First and foremost, I think I'm not in the video business. I actually say I'm in the emotion business. Because we're selling something that, from an emotional component, is so valuable, right? Take away the exposure aspect from college coaches and all the other things that go into the video aspect of this, but having the ability to go back and listen to your name being called or having that highlight moment, I mean, that's an emotion that you can't put any dollar amount on. Right, and if I look back at me and you, we played back in the late mid '90s, early 2000s, right? Mm-hmm. So we were playing. These things weren't available to us. If there was local TV, maybe had something, maybe like your Lake Orion. I know because you went to Lake Orion.
Yeah.
Lake Orion had Lake Orion TV, whatever it was, and they would do some games, but nothing to the level that we do here, and so that was kind of like. So I'm in the emotion business, is what I oftentimes say, but we're very affordable too. Clubs oftentimes say, well, we're too small. We don't need this. We're too small. I go, well, yeah. If you think small, you act small. You think small, right? That's how that works, right? You'll be bigger. I mean, I can't. There's 243 clubs in the state of Michigan right now, and some of them are merging. Michigan Jaguars just merged with another group over here on the side of town,
yeah.
And so they merged. And we had conversations with the Jaguars about, hey, you know what? Just offer this to your parents. Just offer it. Don't go tell them you're going to do it. Be like, go to mom and dad and say, hey, great news. We have this great product that you can partner up with, and here's the pricing for it. On average, if you were to say just one team pay for one game, it's about $20 a kid for us to do this, right? So 18 kid roster, $20 a kid. If it's if it's less than 18, more it's like 25. So 15 kids,
right.
$25. But you can also go to the away team and say, hey, great news. We want to have your game covered. Why don't we split this?
Yeah.
And now it's $10 a kid versus $20.
Right.
In a lot of cases, moms and dads say, how much is it? It's $500 for us to show up to do this. They would be like, well, I'll pay for that. Why wouldn't I pay for that?
Right.
Right now, I think clubs are afraid to ask parents for more money. You know, they're like, well, we're already asking more money from them. So, but I say this, and this is what I tell clubs all the time, is that every year your prices go up. And to be fair, no one has a reason as to why that is. It's just, cost of things go up, right? Every year we get to charge $10 more per kid because things just go up. Mm-hmm. Well, if you just offer this to them and increase the value of, and say, hey, every kid gets one game streamed, or every team gets one game streamed, well, then they can actually put a price tag on what the cost of why it went up, and now it makes sense.
Right.
But it's a process, and once you just need progressive clubs to kind of hop on board, and once they do, then the other ones will kind of just start to do it. And the really cool thing is we've been testing over the last 3 months how to tap into VO and huddle cameras. So now we are able to stream effectively and consistently in the huddle and VO and Spidio environments, where those games that just kind of live in that, whatever you want to call it, land, we can come in and provide commentary, graphics, instant replay, and the full production in a VO live environment or a huddle live experience.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, not to get too techie, but how?
Did you sign that non-disclosure agreement when you walked in? I don't remember if I heard you do that.
I mean, I'm just trying to think about, like, okay, if you did Buffalo Stallions, so they would obviously have the camera crew there, and then you just tap in and provide the
like, so for example, in the APSL with Real Central, they have a VO Live. We provided them with the information to get access, and then when they go live, instead of going directly to VO Live or going to a YouTube channel, it comes into our studio, and then we go ahead and do it.
Does every state have something like this?
Like what?
This production?
Probably not.
I don't think New York does.
I mean, there are other organizations that do this, and they do it. Like in Atlanta, there's a company that does broadcasting. It's very hyper local, and they do a great job. And there's companies in all over the country that are very hyper local, right? But when I got into this, I was like, I don't want to just be this local thing. I want to take over the world, in the matter of speaking, right? And so I've been thinking big since the moment I started this, and we did last year, to put things in perspective, we did 400 games last year in total. So this year we've already done that in the first 4 months of the year, and we will do 400 games in the next 30 days, right? So
right, because all the summer leagues,
start to take
USL2s,
they all start to take it, right? So, but the biggest challenge of what we do too is there's this growing pains, but and there's a lot of growing pains of what we're doing right now. Like, and I say growing pains, it's like just like when you went from maybe renting a facility to taking it on yourself. You realize that there's now I have to worry about keeping the lights on. I have to do this. I have to, if the turf's not right, I got to get the turf fixed. There's all these things that now come into play that when you were renting, you didn't have to worry about.
Yep.
Right? And so now we are running into things that we weren't experiencing before, right? I mean, to put things in perspective, a year ago, about 15 months ago, we were only doing one game at a time. Like, I could only do one game at a time.
Right.
And the one challenge was to go from one game to two. And in October of last year, we did 2 games at the same time. And then in November, we did 3 games. And that's monumental if you think about it. We go from one game to 2 to 3 happening all at the same time, right? And tonight, we're going to have 7 going at the exact same time in 2 different time intervals, right? So it's like, you're like, and we've already done 6 and 7 at a time before, so now we're getting into our groove. But next week we have to go from 7 to 20, right? So it's like, so then it goes from 20 to 33 in one time slot, then the third 33. So it's like all of that starts to kind of weigh on you, and we're experiencing some growing pains with how the process is, and it's all a process. It's all a process, but it's the part that makes my hair stick up. This is not done naturally, by the way. It actually happens over time as the morning and the day goes into.
Oh my gosh. How fun is this?
This is great, man.
See what you've built from going to the game to this.
Yeah.
How fun has that been?
It's awesome, man. I don't work. I work tremendous hours, but it doesn't feel that way. And I'm sure you're probably in the same way, right? Because like when you're in that groove where you probably hate the 8 o'clock in the morning until like 2 o'clock in the afternoon when there's like nothing happening. It's just like whatever. And then at 2:30 and 3 o'clock when players start rolling up into your door, it's like, this is awesome. I'm not working anymore. This is great, right?
Yeah.
I'm in my space, right? I'm in my world. When we go into the chaotic moments of the night where every game is chaotic, every moment is chaos, and I'm pretty sure every night I lose minutes of my life every single time I do this. But when you get it right, it is an unbelievable feeling. I mean, you're seeing all this stuff working in real time. These producers and the games and the goals that are happening. It's an unbelievable thing to see.
This episode is brought to you by PlayMaker Training Camp. This summer, we are hosting 2 separate camps in 2 different locations. One in Akron, New York from July 14th to the 17th, and another in Williamsville, New York, July 28th to the 31st. Camp staff are former PlayMaker Training athletes that are currently playing in Division I, Division II, Division III, or former pros. We also have group rates for groups of more than 10 players. We have sibling rates if you have a brother or a sister that would like to join. We also have discounts for choosing to go to both camps. You can register now at playmakertraining.com/summercamps. Before this, you didn't have any background in the video production space.
Nope. I learned all this has been self-taught. I did not go to school. I didn't go to everything you see here, all the equipment you see here. I always say I'm purposely failing forward, right? So whatever I do today, if I'm failing with a purpose to move forward, right? So I'm trying something new out. It doesn't work. Try something. I'm failing forward. Is what I always tell people.
I am blown away, man. I am blown away.
And this is actually we just kind of reconverted the space because we have our green screen room over there, but we have our ranking shows that we do on Sunday night. We have other shows, and this is like a cool thing. We have this window here and you have the road, so I'm like, this is kind of a cool thing to maybe set up to do some of our live shows from, and some breaking news type stuff. But just have this cool window, and that's what we have here. So,
have you had to turn away teams, clubs?
No,
not yet.
Not yet. I won't turn down Tom. Nope. No, we just started. Matter of fact, we were fully booked today, and the Wolves reached out to me yesterday and said, are you guys coming to the games tonight? And I go, we don't have those games scheduled. Let me see what I can do. And I called one of our camera operators, and they could make it out there. So yeah, we're going to pull that off tonight.
All right.
That was a last minute thing.
What made you okay? I mean, you reffed me.
Yep.
And then when I started coaching, you were reffing.
Yep.
And then Groves.
Yep.
You did really well that first year. Did you win districts?
Yeah, no. So that first year, I think the year you had a really young team your first year. 9
freshmen.
Yeah, you had 9 freshmen, and it was a really
Bear
good.
And Spencer and those guys.
Thompson. Yep. A really good freshman class. I think you went like 2 and whatever in that year, right? Really rough year. You got bumped down to the blue. I came in. We went 11-7-2, but all we could do was go up.
Yeah.
I'm with that team, and then that league, all you were going to do was get better record, right? So I was just, obviously, I was very appreciative of the talent that we had. My second year, we won the blue. We finished in second in the first year, won the blue the second year, moved up to the white. We actually ended up tying, I want to say it was like Oxford that last game, and whatever it was, and ultimately we ended up finishing second in the white. Then the fourth year, we beat Oxford at their place to win the white, and then moved up to the red. And then we got spanked in the red my final year. So, but that was from
that was like Athens and Troy and Adams,
yeah. But people are like, "Why did you go up?" I go because I was already I got to pick my schedule. I went to Tom Flynn and said, "I don't want to just like play anybody. I want to pick my schedule, and I want my play. If we have ever have a chance of trying to go and make long playoff runs, we have to play against the best teams in the state. So I would schedule Troy Athens, Troy High. Well, we had Troy on the schedule, but I would schedule these teams that were in the red because if we wanted to get there one day, we'd have to play them anyways.
Yeah.
So we were playing those teams. Yeah, we got smoked in most of those games. We beat Stony Creek one year. We never beat Athens, But yeah, we got to the red and we got smoked. But I was very determined. Like, hey, our goal was to get there.
Yeah.
And I remember I walked into Tom Flynn when I was interviewing for the job, and I said, in 5 years we'll be in the red, and we were in the red in 4. So.
Do you miss coaching?
I miss the players, but I think that for me, every year at the end of a season, I would go in that period of time where you're kind of done for like a month, and I started to miss it. And that last year, I just didn't miss it. I didn't have this urge to get back into it. And I talk about this in the podcast all the time. Parents I love you, parents, but I also don't. Right?
Well, you got it from both sides.
Oh.
You got it as a coach, and you got it as a ref.
Yeah, that made it. Again, I always tell this to parents, and I'll tell it to any parent. When we had our parent meetings at the beginning of the season, I said, here's what I know. I know what you want, moms and dads. You want the 10 best players on the field in your kid. That's what you want, right? That's what you want on the field, right?
Love that.
My job is to find the 11 best, and your kid might not be in that mix. No one wants to travel from work at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday to watch their kid ride the pine.
Of course.
Right? But in the high school environment,
I love that.
yeah, it's a great line.
That's definitely going to be a clip because I love that. I've never heard that.
But it's the truth.
It's 100% the truth.
Tell me a parent that doesn't want their kid in the field now. A realistic parent wants their kid on the field. They're paying, and in the high school environment it's different, but in the club environment it's especially spot on because you're paying this money to be there.
Yeah.
And they should be there. And that's why, I don't understand why coaches are specializing players at 11.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't specialized at 11. At 11, I was playing majors, and I think at 12 I started going into the goal. I kind of started gravitating towards that.
Right.
But in today's world, a goalkeeper has to be a field player.
Yep.
So if you're putting a goalie back in goal, first off, you can teach anyone to stop shots. So that's
There's a difference between a shot stopper and a goalkeeper.
There is. You have to be able to play with your feet. So, and if you ever watch, if you know what I'm talking about, you have to go watch the Columbus Crew Academy.
Yeah.
If you ever watch those, they quintessential play out of the back to a fault. And they will live and die by it.
Yep.
By the way, they don't care if they make mistakes.
A lot of teams die by it.
Yeah, they literally play with the wrong ball around the back. They'll have the goalkeeper inside the 6 with the ball while he's under pressure, probably 17 times in a game.
Yep.
And it's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. We did
because
not
the
cover
player
up
is a
that.
field player.
Yeah, it's a field player that can use their hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, soccer has changed so much. Speaking of Lake Orion and stuff, did you hear about Randy?
I did actually. I saw the post. And I was like, man, at first when you said Oakland Yard, it didn't really catch me. And I'm like, that's Randy. I remember Randy when I got to Lake Orion. And Lake Orion was one of those places as a referee. I can't speak to it as a coach. As a referee, it was like a love and hate. Because when you got to that field, you were so close to the parents, right? You could not get away. You were 5 feet from the field to the bleachers, and it was small, it was intimate, it was a soccer-specific stadium, and there's something about parents as they move further north that they get more angrier towards officials. I feel it's the further you get north, it just starts to come out, way worse than it does in Metro Detroit. But and Randy was one of those guys that was. It's kind of hard. He had this kind of way about him where it was you couldn't tell if he was serious or if he was joking, in that middle kind of thing. And I really enjoyed Randy. I thought he was a good dude. I can't speak to his coaching. Lake Orion always, did a fairly good job.
Yeah. Man.
But I think I'm assuming he had a heart attack. I don't know if you have any details, but
I talked to Amanda Hutchison.
Okay.
And supposedly he fainted.
Oh.
Hit his head. 58, man.
Jeez, oh Pete's. It's a young way. It's a young way to go. And he had.
Terrible.
Obviously you have Chris Kraft is there doing the boys still. I believe I know he stopped doing the girls. I think, or is he doing? Did he stop completely with both boys now as well? Chris Cortag. Sorry, Chris Cortag. My bad.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah, so he stepped away.
Say Wise is the boys.
Yeah. Okay.
But Hutch is involved too, and then Amanda has
Yep.
the girls.
Yeah. No, we but yeah, going out and reffing out in Lake Orion was a blast. I still have one of my fondest memories at Lake Orion. You might even have been a player at that time. There was a rivalry game, Lake Orion Oxford. I always say this: you could feel it was a boys' game. You could feel this intensity in your being.
Yep.
Like you could feel it, like just this build up.
And back then we barely played each other, but we could just.
Yeah, it just you could feel this intensity about it just happening, and it was. I remember as a referee, there was this not mass confrontation, but two players kind of got together, and it was happening right in front of the parents. And I remember I run right over and I say, "Guys," they're like what? I'm like, let's move away. Let's I'm going to talk to you, but not here. Let's get away from the parents.
Couldn't hear you.
Let's move.
Well, I got a story for you, and I remember it like it was yesterday. You remember coming on our bus?
Oh, yeah.
Rochester Adams?
Oh, my God, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that,
One
yeah.
of my teammates was an idiot.
Yep.
And Bryant, I know who it is. It's Bryant Maroney. I don't care. He's not going to see this. I don't know where he is. But, and that was when the Omacondas were there.
Yep.
And it was all three of them. And it was Paul, it was Simone, and it was Jean. And supposedly the N-word came out. You remember that?
I remember coming on the bus because it was at Adams. I remember coming
Randy
on the bus.
was our coach.
Yep, and I know there was a number of times I've had to have conversations. I remember I walked up to, I got scolded by the league for this because I went. I don't know who it was, but we were at the time. It was another coach, and I don't remember who the coach was after, like in between Randy and Chris Corteg.
It was Pfeiffer. Eric Pfeiffer. And
I remember I went over to one of the other team and I said, "Hey, I go, this is Lake Orion. I go, as a referee, I go, I just want you to be aware of a couple things." I said, one is that the parents here and the fans can be a little in your face. So I said, so just be mindful that as you're coming down the sidelines, you might get some, right? Almost like a preemptive thing to one of the coaches. And then I also said that Lake Orion is a very physical team because, again, that's the mentality that was taught at Lake Orion, to be a physical team, not dirty, but physical, and just protect yourselves. And I would walk up to both teams and have these kind of conversations. And that coach went over and told, I think, Pfeiffer, and he came up to me and goes, "You're telling my team, they're telling them to watch out." I go, no, that's not. My job as a ref to be proactive, and I'm just telling teams how they should handle each other on the field, and they didn't like that. And I got a call from the league about that, saying you can't do that. I'm like, well, that's what I do. It's why I'm well liked. It's also why sometimes people don't like me too. So but yeah.
Do you miss roughing?
I do miss reffing a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I got my A. I was, I learned, everything I learned as a referee, as a coach, as a player, all of that has helped me prepare me for this. You just didn't know it. I just didn't know it, right? I mean, I didn't know it. I mean, think about that, right? I mean, there's a reason why you're not a head coach anymore, right? And it has nothing to do with your love or lack of love for the game of soccer.
Right.
It's just you felt that I'm better a trainer. I want to be a trainer. I want to be able to have this impact on players who want to be here.
Yeah.
Right? Because a player coming to you wants to be there in most cases.
Yep.
Right? And you get in a lot of these places where you're coaching to your weakest player, because that's, if you're a teacher, you're coaching to your weakest student, right?
Yeah.
And as much as we don't want to say that, but that's the case, because if someone's behind, you're trying to get them up, right? So we're coaching to the weakest player. And in soccer, the player that is struggling is what's stopping everything from moving forward. So you have to,
And that's the way that a lot of parents don't see it, is that you have to raise the lower level because who's going to push the top? If we allow this skill gap, and if you come to Western New York, our skill gap is gigantic. And
is that because of distance?
I don't know. I think it's maybe population, but I don't see Grand Rapids having the same issue as Buffalo. Because Grand Rapids has some great soccer, and always has. It
always has. It's just somehow, it's weird. But you get in between Grand Rapids, and you get into that Lansing area, and I would argue that between Metro Detroit and Grand Rapids, it's not so great. Right now, you might say, hey, well, the Jaguars are there. But the Jaguars, to be fair, are in that Novi area, that pocket of Novi, Northville, and Walled Lake. That area is pretty good. But you start getting into Lansing, I don't. You start going Okemos. You start going. Where is that?
It was always just Okemos.
Yeah. So I think that could be a factor. But you're right when we're talking about coaching to the. And I had this conversation with Jimmy Cicero a lot when I was at Groves. I'd be like, dude, I don't get it, man. I don't understand how we are so far behind everybody else. I'm like, my players are getting run around, and they're just doing circles around my players on the field. He goes, John, has nothing to do with what you're doing as a coach. These players, if they're not playing at the highest level all the time, he goes, they're always going to be 5, 6, 7 steps behind the next person. right? And that's really what it came down to, is that when my player would receive the ball, their decision-making process in that span of time before they started to see pressure was all the difference compared to their counterpart on the other side of the ball, right? And that's it. And you know that because you see it all the time. I mean, you watch an ECNL game and then you go watch an MLS Next, game. Like they're supposed to be like right here, right? Now, I would argue that the Girls Academy and ECNL, I would argue that in a lot of cases that ECNL's probably got some better players maybe over, I think that, but on the MLS, the boys side, the ECNL is not even close to MLS.
I don't think it's close at all.
Now, there are some teams. You could argue the Nationals, they would go out there. You could argue that there are some pockets of teams within these divisions of the ECNL that are really good and can compete.
Yeah.
But we have players that have left the Nationals and have gone to the Wolves because it's MLS Next and the Academy, and they're like, John, it's like the level of talent, it's like not even close. It's like significantly different. And you know that when you step on the field, because in these environments too, they're not like balls to the wall. Right? You don't see MLS academies like going at you like 100 miles an hour. No, they're very methodical. It's like a chess game, right? You're moving the ball around, but the decision making and how they move the ball around, how they switch the point of attack, and all these different things that they do, all these things make them so much more quality than that of what you're seeing everywhere else.
Do you think it comes down to subbing limits at the younger ages? That they know how to maintain their body, whereas ECNL, it's like, okay, we're gonna play the wingback system, and our wingbacks are just gonna run 19 miles a game, and then when they're tired, I'm gonna sub them out. Then I'm gonna sub them back in later. Whereas the MLS Next doesn't have that.
I think that the academy, the way it was developed, right, was developed to be more of a training ground, right? It was designed to be a training ground. And competitions were just a way of measuring where you were in your progress, right? It's your progress report, right? Go out there and compete, right? I think the training regimen that's happening at the MLS Next level is probably far better than that of what you're getting at the ECNL level on a whole level, right?
Right.
That's probably one of the core reasons why it's better. And then I think on the other side of that, I think that again, I believe there are less games in MLS Next land, right? So recovery, right? There's a huge focus on recovery, and so if you're playing, all these games over the course of a 10-week season, how do you recover? How do you manage that? All those things go into play, and that's why probably MLS Next is better in that way.
I agree 100%. Also, where are you going to be able to maybe play against what's a good example? A Josh Sargent, who played in the DA, which is now the MLS Next, right? You used to have some boys at Vardar that, man, we played against Josh Sargent.
Yeah.
You're not, I don't care what your record is at that level. If you're getting to play against maybe future national team players, maybe try to play at that level.
Yeah.
If you're capable.
I have a lot of different opinions about MLS Next and what the goal is. I always believed that MLS Next was geared towards creating a basically this feeder system into MLS teams, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was designed for. But somehow it turned into a pipeline to send players to college. And which is completely against what MLS wants players to do.
Exactly.
It's completely against it. So I oftentimes say, well, why are we putting so much of an emphasis on sending college coaches to these games in the MLS land, where their whole purpose is to get them from the MLS Next up to into their next, all these things. Why are we doing it this way? It's a conundrum to me.
Yeah.
And so, again, if we look at the boys' side of the game for a second, we know that it's, there's girls have 2 times more likely chance to go into college, play college soccer in the United States than boys do, right?
Yep.
It's times 2, right? So we know that. So the boys are already at a disadvantage number-wise as far as getting into that 1% opportunity of going and playing at the next level, right? And not all college is created equal, right? We can talk about that right now too, right? Not going to a Division I Oakland University is not like going to Division I Maryland. Okay, they're not the same.
Correct.
They're both Division I, but not the same. But then you could also say the same thing about Akron and Western Michigan, right? Right now, Western Michigan, you would have thought Western Michigan and Akron. Now those guys are competing against the likes of Indiana in the Big Ten, and even have a fighting chance of going on to the soccer, the College Cup.
or like Marshall,
Yeah.
or who just won Vermont.
It's unfathomable that you're seeing, that type of thing. But again, these Division II schools in some cases are way better than a Division I school will ever be. And look at Grand Valley State; could be a perfect example of that. Saginaw Valley, you could see those are local schools here in Michigan that they don't necessarily. But I would argue that Saginaw Valley could probably not only run circles, but very competitively against the local university or Detroit Mercy and have success. I don't think that's the case with Western. Western has changed the college environment in Michigan on the men's side, and they've done it because they went back to what the traditional style of U.S. soccer was designed to be, which was this physical, direct style of play.
Yeah.
Right? Which we've gotten away from in this country.
Yes.
Which is why we're not having success on the international stage.
Yeah.
We need to play American
100%.
soccer, not European soccer, because we aren't. We it's like Herb Brooks. Take the play out of his. We're gonna find out how they play, and then we're gonna flip it up and we're gonna use it against them.
Yeah.
We need to do that. We're not doing that.
So many directions to go there. Remember when Western was going to lose their program in 2003, 2004?
Yeah.
And then now, thank God that didn't happen.
No.
But I think it all switched in 2002 World Cup.
Yeah.
Because we were a counter-attacking team.
Yep.
And we used Landon and Beasley and their speed, and then we had a tree trunk in the middle with McBride. Then
we're a crossbar away from going on to a semifinal, right?
VAR away. If we had VAR back then.
Yeah.
But and then 4 years later, we acted like we arrived because we made one quarterfinal and we didn't win a game.
No.
We tied England, I think, and then that was it.
Yeah.
So,
well, remember, Jurgen Klinsmann also changed how we educated our coaches,
system.
changed the whole system, and could argue that there's a lot of good things about that. Obviously, a lot of bad things about that. We talked about this on our podcast a few weeks ago. It's first off, it's never happened in the history of the World Cup where a non-born citizen coach ever won a World Cup, right? So if you were not born in the United States or born in the country in which your team is playing, then you will not win the World Cup. It's been proven. It's never happened. There's never been a
I never realized that, but it makes sense.
Yeah. Why? Because you have to know your players. You have to know your country, right? Every country has a culture. Now, the United States is the one in which there's multiple cultures, and it's a very, very unique place. But the soccer dynamic is an American dynamic, and to not have a coach who was, born and raised here and understands that aspect of it is probably a hindrance, and it is a hindrance to the growth of our game in this country.
Do you think Berhalter got treated fairly, or I think he was treated poorly?
100%.
Personally, because, the whole Gio Reyna thing.
Well,
Gio Reyna
entitlement's a real thing. It's a real thing. We see it all the time. Entitlement's a real thing. I was not involved in that. Obviously, it wasn't. But let's be honest. As a former coach, I can tell you that we had players who were very, very good, but they were not team players. They were not in it for the betterment of the team. They were there for themselves, and it was a hard thing to manage as a coach. And you're always trying to find ways. So you've got a player who's coming in who thinks that they're the top dog, and maybe they are the top dog. Maybe they're a really good player. I get to see Gio Reyna do what Gio Reyna's supposed to do. So I would argue that he's not a top dog. And if we're not seeing it now, we didn't see it then. That's probably why Berhalter wasn't playing him. But
so many people are all over Gio Reyna, and I just don't see it. There's little moments of that was good.
Yeah.
But to act like he's on par with Pulisic, I don't even think it's close.
It's not even close. And to be fair, I love Pulisic, but Pulisic is not the player we need. We need, to be fair, we need another Landon Donovan. We need a player, and I say like another Landon Donovan was a gritty player. He was a workhorse. Right, he was also very vocal too, which you need vocality. You need someone who can lead the team in a way in which it's not just how you play, but it's how you carry yourself. And Pulisic doesn't come off to me as someone that is like, this full-on leader. Right, he is a guy that will go out there and play.
Right,
but he's not like that quote-unquote like quarterback, that leader of the locker room that at least I can see from.
Yeah,
somebody's willing to say, "Hey guys, let's go." You know what I mean, and like be like this.
Right.
You see it in moments, but I don't think he's able to carry that team on his back. As you need someone who can just step up and say, "Hey, this is my team. Let's go."
But think of that 2002 team. You had that all over the field. You had Brad Friedel in goal. You had
Yep.
Jeff Agus.
Yep.
You had Pablo Mastroeni. I always loved John O'Brien.
Yep.
And then you had Brian McBride. And then you had these two kids, Landon and DeMarcus, who played together all the way at Bradenton, the U17s. Does that even happen anymore? I don't know.
I don't think so.
But I don't know. You've been around the game outside of a player, 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played a soccer game myself since 2000, in a co-ed game, probably since 2003. So yeah, 22 years.
I haven't played since 2015. Do you think that we are better now than we were 20 years ago?
Talent-wise, yes.
Talent-wise,
I think I don't think there's
yes.
any question. Talent-wise, we are way better off than we were 20 years ago.
Okay.
Talent-wise, it's it's cultivating that talent and creating continuity within the team itself in order for that team to go out and be successful. We've created a lot of really good individuals, right? But not good teams. And I keep saying this, if the U.S. men's national team wants to have success, I actually almost have to feel like you need to go and say, you know what, we're going to take these 25 players, we're going to pay them a professional salary, and they play together the entire year.
Yep.
And then that way they become this entire team, and that's how you do it. Done. Solves your problem.
Do you remember when Mexico almost didn't qualify for the World Cup, and they brought in a club, I want to say it was Pachuca maybe, and they hired the Pachuca coach, and he brought 11 of his players from Pachuca to play for the national team, and they qualified. And it's like, why don't we do that? Why? Okay, I used to be a dork when it came to this stuff because I tried to. Okay, when Spain was having their reign in like 2008 to 2012, and it seems like it's back now.
Yep.
Seven of their 11 starters in that World Cup final all played for Barcelona. The rest played for Real Madrid. 2 clubs.
Yeah.
One country,
Yep.
2 clubs. Domestic league, right? Then fast forward, and it was Germany. It was all Bayern Munich guys.
Yeah.
It was 6 of the 11 were from Bayern Munich. And I think 9 of the 11 starters all played in Germany. What do? I looked at the roster from almost every single U.S. World Cup. We have guys from 19 different clubs.
Yep.
And 7 different domestic leagues.
Yep.
If we just took an MLS roster, I would argue that we would do better than having all this hodgepodge. Because how much time does Pochettino get with the national team?
I don't know.
None.
And again, I ask this question all the time. Name me a player that would start on Argentina that's on Team USA.
Not one.
Not one.
Even Pulisic.
Not even Pulisic. So if you look at that, but then you can go, okay, well, how many players in Argentina would start on USA? Well, all of them. Right? So, I mean, okay, so which would, maybe a goalkeeper in there. But, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, and I understand that Turner doesn't get not Tim Turner, but Turner doesn't get what I would consider maybe a fair shake. But I don't consider him a bad goalkeeper. And to be fair, we've always kind of been blessed with great goalkeeping in the United States.
Yeah.
We've always have really great goalkeepers. Tim Howard's great. I mean, Casey Keller, Brad Friedel. I mean, you could argue about Brad Guzan for a moment. I mean, we can talk about that. But we've always had really good goalkeeping. So it's never been our Achilles heel. Our issue right now is not goalkeeping. Our issue is it's a style of play. We are trying, and this is why we're bringing in these sexy names like Pochettino, and we're bringing these Klinsmann. We're bringing them in because we want to bring in this kind of like mythology that is not ours.
Right.
And we're trying something different. And no, what we need to do is get back to the way we played back in the 90s and the 2000s. And to be fair, teams today, you go out and play a direct ball like that, they aren't going to know how to defend that.
No.
Because they're not used to seeing that.
No.
That's why Chad Wiseman and Western Michigan are having success because teams are not used to having to defend balls in the air.
Right.
Direct balls over the top and speed.
They don't have to win the ball is there ever a second ball opportunity anymore? Because everything is like what we said earlier is build out of the back, 1,000 passes, because everybody.
Yep.
It's like an identity crisis.
It is, 100%. It's not. It's in a crisis that will go up in flames here in about 12 months because we think that we're going to compete at the highest level with this team, which we have a lot of talented players. But again, I don't know if they all want to be there. I think playing on your resume is a great thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if they all want to be there. When you lose to Panama and Canada in a tournament that actually does mean something, even if it doesn't mean the same thing as something else, and you're losing, there's something to be said about going out and winning a game that you should win.
Yeah.
And those are games that we should have won. And we're losing them because we don't know how to play soccer the way you're supposed to play in America.
Going back to what you said about being individuals, I actually had this conversation with my dad last night about soccer's no longer a team sport. It is individual. Kids are worried about where they're going to college. Kids are worried about which college coaches are in the stands.
Yep.
They're not necessarily. They can go to a showcase this weekend, go 0-3, and they're like, North Carolina was at my game.
And I had 6 goals. We lost all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that genie's been put back in the bottle.
I don't know why college coaches are even going anymore looking for freshmen, to be fair.
They're not on the men's team.
Yeah. Why even go? Why would you even want to go? I mean, if I have the transfer portal at my disposal, I want a player who was a freshman last year, who saw crucial minutes or got in whatever, maybe got 10, 15 minutes playing at a D2 school and saying, you know what? Okay, let's give him a chance. Let's transfer him over here. Let's go. That's what I want. I don't want the freshman who I don't know I'm going to get. With all the, all that kind of nightmare. I don't want that. I want a proven student athlete.
You watch so many players on a given week. Are you seeing a difference in not I don't know what I'm asking. Like where are the top players? Where are they playing right now?
Yeah, it's a mix, right? I mean, we have the biggest thing right now is you've got in the high school scene, you've got this battle between club soccer and high school, right? Where we signed a contract for the year, but I want to go play my senior year because I probably signed at a college, and now I don't have to have that pressure anymore. I want to play my friends. Right. Then we have this other component where club soccer, whether those players who are not yet ready or haven't been selected yet to their college or committed, that they're still fighting for that that opportunity, right? So it's a conundrum at the lower level for sure. I would argue that MLS Next is the best youth environment that we've seen on the boys' side.
Yep.
ECNL is the best on the girls' side.
Yep.
I have yet to see anything to really compare that. I haven't really seen the girls' academy, but we have seen the ECNL.
Right.
I can tell you that that's where the best players are in the girls' game. In the high school environment, here locally, it's the OAA Red. I mean, they're both boys and girls' side, just full of. I mean, we've seen 6 state champions come out of here in the last 3 years in both boys and girls' sides. So,
finally.
Yeah.
Because remember when it was like, well,
all Grand Rapids. Remember for a long time there.
Yeah, because we would kill each other over here.
Yep.
And then
East
Grand
Kentwood.
East Kentwood, yeah.
Yep.
Or
I mean,
Forest Hills.
Huntsville Unity Christian, which has been ranked number 1. They've won they're like Bill. I mean, that's like Bill Belichick, the Patriots.
Yeah.
It's like Huntsville Unity Christian. I mean, like every state final like the last 10 years.
Yep.
It's freaking nuts.
When I was at Country Day coaching with Bob and Paul, yeah, it was always Hudsonville. Occasionally at Williamston.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Williamston in
Yep.
around Lansing?
Yep.
But other than that, and they coasted, and we would have to play Notre Dame Prep on the girls,
Yep.
or we would have to play. Who do we always run into on the boys' side? When we were at Country Day, it wasn't Brother Rice because they were always D1. I'm going blank, but we'd always run into them. It was like Powers.
Flint Powers was always Flint Powers has always been good.
Yeah.
Gross Seal has been good now of late. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say like certain environments, but there are just certain teams you just see really, really good play. Like Flint City Bucks in USL League 2. It's like Flint City Bucks, and then everybody else is here. It's like a distant second, especially here in
Who's coaching
Michigan.
that team right now?
Paul Doro, who's also the head coach.
Oh, yeah. OU.
Yeah, Paul Doro. He's a great dude.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we like that. But I mean, we see. I mean, it's crazy. It's probably actually better to say where do you see the worst players, or the players that aren't that great. And to be fair, you start getting into Division IV high school soccer, you're starting to see kind of a lot, and that's just a numbers thing. It's not because the players themselves just aren't good, and there's probably a lot of that, but they just don't have the same pool.
Right.
Right. You're talking about 120, 200 kids going to a school in Division 4. When you're talking about a Troy Athens that has 1,800 kids that go to it, right? The tryout pool is significantly different.
Right.
So you might have 4 or 5 players on your team that are pretty good. The rest, the fall off, is just tremendous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like last year, 2 years ago, Olivia Thomas, who's now at North Carolina, she actually scored the game-winning goal in the College Cup for them this year on a free kick. Well, she went to Grosse Pointe University with Liggett.
Yep.
And they were ranked
Hawks kid, right?
Yeah, Hawks kid. She also played for Flint City AFC as well. But she was playing with her team, Liggett, and An said, we're cutting you out. You're not going to, don't play high school. You're done. Right as they're going to playoffs. So this team, which would have won a state championship, she stepped off, went and played for Flint City AFC. That team fell apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. All because he said, no, don't play.
Wow. Do you ever, when you're calling one of these games, do you ever see like a lightning in a bottle, like, who is this guy or who is this girl from, name a team in, aren't you guys in Florida? Do you guys have teams in Florida?
Yeah, we have. The last night was supposed to be a game, but it got postponed due to inclement weather. But we got games in Pensacola, Florida, and the Gulf Coast, and up and down the Eastern Seaboard. We have teams in 36 states. So, 36 states. So,
you're really nationwide.
Yeah, we really are nationwide. It's crazy. But to answer your question, I mean, I don't know if I can sit here and say I saw a player that was like a good player, but like for example, calling the name like Lily Jekyll, who's 16 now. She's on the Nationals ECNL side with David Robertson. She plays now at Detroit City FC in the summer. Okay, she's 16 years old. She's unbelievable. Amalia Villarreal, who plays at Texas, who played for the Jaguars. She plays now for Union FC Macomb in the USLW. We'll see her this summer. She's a phenomenal player. For her size, she's phenomenal. Yeah. Right? She is a little Tasmanian devil out there. She just knows how to find her way, and she finds goals, scores goals, and she'll score them at will. Yeah. When she scored 6 goals in like the U.S. World Cup, remember that back a couple summers ago?
Yeah.
So we see her; she's phenomenal. Lily Bosley, who is another female who went to Rochester Stony Creek. She's now at Michigan State. She's a phenomenal player. Ava Lutke. On the west side of the state. She's going to be Miss Soccer this year. I've already said it a couple of times. She's Miss Soccer. I'm telling you right now, it's who it's going to be.
Yeah.
Ava Lutke. And that's on the girls' side. On the boys' side, I mean, we see a ton of talent. Jordan Klein, who is a defender, who's now over at Western, he's a phenomenal defender. I mean, I don't oftentimes say defenders, but he is phenomenal. Yeah. We saw some of the Michigan Stars this past week. Zatuna. He played for the U23 Iraqi national team, I believe.
Okay.
Plays for Michigan Stars. That guy is unbelievable. We have a replay. I should show you the goal. It's unbelievable. It shouldn't have counted, but it was still an unbelievable goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's players all over the country that we see that you're like, wow, But the problem here too is this, and this is like with the recent announcement of this new USL league that's going to compete with the MLS, or at least supposedly it will do that. If you're a player in this country, you grew up. Okay, if you're a football player, you grew up wanting to play in the NFL. If you're a basketball player, it's the NBA. If you're a soccer player, it's the MLS.
Yeah.
Right. So even when this new league comes out,
right,
it just becomes like another option. But you still want to be where? The MLS. So the only players that will go into that environment are ones that are currently in the environment who can't play at the MLS level.
Right.
Right. Or the ones who are leaving the MLS and still want to play.
Yeah, like Juan Algadello is still like playing in the USL. Yeah.
So the USL Championship will move its teams up to this new USL division, right? This new USL First Division thing, and then you'll have players who can no longer hack it at the MLS level. They'll come into that league as well, and then players who are trying to get into the MLS will still find their way into that league, because again, it comes down to money. If you're a player and you are one of the best players in this country, unless the league is willing to pay you double what you'd get in the MLS, why would you go there?
Right.
And that's nothing against the USL, because I think the USL is a great league. I think it's ran great. Yeah. It's one of the best leagues in the country. But if you're looking to, again, Major League Baseball, it's a great example, right? Major League Baseball. Okay, what's below Major League Baseball? Is it AAA?
Yeah.
Well, if you're a AAA baseball player, you're using that to get to the MLS. Now, if they brought out another league tomorrow called Major League Baseball 2.3 and you started a whole new league, who would want to go there?
Right.
AAA players would want to go there because that'd be their shot at the big leagues, right?
Yeah.
But those players aren't good enough to be in the Major League Baseball. So what?
I mean, I think that USL is ultimate goal is for the MLS to call for a merger. Kind of like the AFL-NFL merger, right? When Lamar Hunt, he wasn't given an NFL team.
Yeah.
And so he made
it's a terrible idea.
He made a good product. Do you think promotion and relegation is a terrible idea?
Terrible idea.
Well, go deeper.
Money.
Well,
I mean,
like you
money.
said, owning the team, there's no money.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talk about this. We talk about this a lot because this is the case. It's the non-pure soccer fan who likes watching the Premier League is they're in love with this idea that there's like these towns all across Europe where you can be in the first division. There's like 3 teams in the first division. There's 2 teams in the second division. There's 3 teams in the third division, all within like a couple miles of you. Right. But in the United States, we are huge. Like, I mean,
too big.
UK in England is so small. I don't know how the exact land mass is, but it's not even. We're so much bigger.
Yeah.
And so, like for example, you've got teams in Los Angeles that play, right? And so then you have a team that plays in New York. So that travel alone, to travel with teams, players, everybody is going to cost $50,000, $100,000 for your entire team to go from there to here. Right. And so imagine now USL Championship, Detroit City FC, which has 7,000 people that's in its stands on a regular basis. I know they're moving to a bigger stadium here in the coming years, but that stadium says 13,000. So now imagine that team gets bumped up to the MLS. So they now 13,000 seats in their stadium. So great, they're in the MLS now. Congratulations. How is that going to be? How are they going to be able to support the roster of players and the money needed for that? Now the league can maybe step in and give them some money, but that's. Well, how much money do they have?
When has that ever happened?
I can't think of a time. And so, it's one of those things where it sounds great, but how do you pull it off? And more importantly, how do you not, while you're doing it, piss off the very people that love watching their team? Because if you are going to the Columbus Crew in Columbus and they see 20,000 people and they lose, they get relegated down to the next Division 2. Right?
Yeah.
Is that stadium going to still be supporting 23,000 people to watch those games? Because right now, the perfect example of this is U.S. Open Cup. Let's use U.S. Open Cup as a perfect example.
Right.
The Philadelphia Union just played Indy 11 this past week on Wednesday night in Philadelphia. That stadium seats upwards of, 20,000 people?
Probably.
5,000 people attended that game. So 25% of its capacity was in that game. And to be fair, that's probably being generous. So that was for a U.S. Open Cup game, single elimination match in which the Philadelphia Union was looking to go on to the next round. And they couldn't get more than 5,000 people in that stadium. So now you tell me that another team comes in during the regular season of USL Championship, they're going to sell 20,000 seats to those games? They can't do it for an Indy 11 game. What's the difference? You think that the average soccer fan's going to give again, if I look at the soccer fans across America.
They're not tied to these clubs.
No.
Like they are over there. They're born
Yes.
Everton fans.
If I look at the dynamic of just Detroit City FC, and I love their dynamic, it's the Northern Guard, right? The Northern Guard is their fan base, right?
Right.
If you were to go in and ask any one of them the understanding the game of soccer, I can guarantee you're going to get 7,000 different responses from that fan base group.
Sure.
They don't know soccer. They like the idea of coming together in a community environment and being together, friends in the environment. And that the soccer is just a vehicle for that.
Yeah.
They want to all be together. I would argue, do they even love soccer? I don't know. And I'm not trying to put them in a bad light. I'm just saying that if you go across the country, these aren't the quintessential soccer fans that I'm used to watching growing up, where they knew the game, they understood the game, they were there to enjoy the game. Now it's more like I'm there to enjoy this environment. I'm there to enjoy the ambiance and the camaraderie. It's not so much the soccer.
Right.
And if you take the soccer component away, what do you have?
Yeah.
So I don't think that pro relegation in this country makes sense because I don't think that we have the diehard fans of the game of soccer
to support it.
We have diehard fans who support their team, but support their team because they love going to games with each other, but not because they love their team. Right?
Yeah. I just had this conversation with the owner of FC Buffalo, and he was kind of saying the same thing. It's like, look, Our budget right now for the entire year is $40,000 travel budget. If we got promoted in the USL and had to go to San Diego for one game,
Done.
that's our
Maxed out.
entire
Yep.
budget.
Yep.
How many USL2 teams are in Michigan?
In Michigan, I think there's 8, so 7. Flint City Bucks, you've got Union FC Macomb, you've got Oakland County FC, AFC Ann Arbor, Lansing City, Midwest United, and you've got Kalamazoo FC, and then the outlier there is that new Indiana team, Indiana something.
And they all play each other. And they
Yep.
don't have to go.
They played each other twice, I think.
What's the furthest trip for one of these teams?
I think going
Maybe
to
3
Midwest United
hours?
is probably the
2.5.
Yeah.
Whereas FC Buffalo has to go all the way to Cleveland, all the way to Toledo.
Yep.
Last year, at least. It's like, hold on, that's a 5-hour trip.
Yeah. To rent a bus. I mean, in most cases, you're not even doing that. You're probably just going
2 vans.
in a
2 or
carpool.
Yep, 2 or 3 vans.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
It's silly. Again, I mean, that's why I think you have to be insane to even want to own a team. Because, again, by the time the average team in the UPSL is spending, on average, $25,000 a summer. What are you getting out of it? Other than the headache.
Unless you're, how many people that own teams use it to just write off?
Sure.
Because
Okay.
they own another business.
I would
and they
argue
use it
that
as a
most of these
write-off.
teams are not owned by businesses. I would argue that most of these teams are owned by a player who wanted to own a team. I mean, Detroit City FC is a perfect example of kind of like how you can actually take a team that starts from really nothing
And grassroots
and just grow the heck out of it, right? I mean, you can't. I mean, that's a great example of how, first off, it will never be done ever again. Because, I mean, think about what they had to do. I mean,
When was it founded? When did DCFC
someone just asked me.
start?
I want to say it was like 2009, 2010, somewhere in there. And it started off as a team that was competing, I think, again, just in this friendly environment, like in the MPSL, NPSL, like really kind of like that. And then it just kind of, and they just kind of keep going, you know, and it grew into what it is now.
And it's without the federation or the league giving these clubs money for being promoted, the money's never going to be there. And
No, I
as
mean,
far
Detroit
as
City
I
FC, as
know-
far as I know, is losing money every year, and they're one of the more successful teams in the USL. They're not making money. I think they even say the argument is that most MLS teams aren't making any money.
Why do you think they started an academy? Probably to prop up the financials of the DCFC.
The reason why teams are so this is what you're seeing now is this dynamic now where you're seeing a lot of these club environments are stepping into the amateur semi-professional space, which we call pathway to pro. I want to say this to the camera because this is important, okay? You can call it semi-professional, you can call it pathway to pro. It's amateur, okay? Let's just call it what it is. I know it's sexy and it sounds fun, but no, it's amateur soccer, okay? Yes, some players do get paid because teams want to win.
Yep.
But that's all under the table. It doesn't count. This pathway to pro, whatever you want to call it, it is amateur soccer. Okay. What happens at the USL League 2 is no different than what happens at the MPSL or the MUSL, Michigan United Soccer League. Right. What is the difference? Please tell me. I mean, take away all the stadiums and the streaming and all. What is the difference?
It's all the same level of player, or kinda. It's not that the drop off isn't that large.
Well, I mean, you could argue about competitiveness, but I'm talking about what is the difference between the MLS and amateur soccer? What's the difference?
The money.
The money, the stadium environment. I mean, the TV rights. I mean, right?
TV rights.
We can talk about that,
Gigantic.
right? Everything, coaching, facilities, right? But again, if you look at the amateur level. The amateur in this country, every state has an adult association in its state, governed by the United States Adult Soccer Association, right? All kind of falls under that. All these leagues have to be under that association.
Right.
They're all affiliated to that association. They have to. That's why they can all participate in the USASA Amateur Cup as well, right? You'll see these teams all participating in that. It's all part of that. They're all amateurs. But we use these words to sell this idea that, and to be fair, to sell ads, to sell sponsors, to sell whatever else, because semi-professional sounds better. But what is a semi-professional? It's an unpaid athlete.
Usually.
Amateur.
It's an amateur.
But we want to call it something else. And all these teams, so like, for example, the Nationals, They are now they want to keep their distance from Union FC Macomb, but that's part of the same program. They're it's part of their umbrella. Union FC Macomb is the USL2 and USLW side of the Nationals and their youth program.
Right.
And what they wanted to do, and when I talked with Jeremy Harkins a couple years ago about this, he was talking about, okay, so at the beginning stages of development for our players, they come in and they go into junior nationals, right? They're like little toddlers, and they learn kick the ball around and things like that. And then they move into the nationals, and then, hey, if they're really good and they want to keep going, they can go to the ECNL, they can go to the academy, blah, blah, blah. And then when they go off to college and they've gotten their degree, they can come, what can they do in the summertime? They can come back and they can play for us in the summer. So what we've done is we've created this pathway where they can just keep going all the way to the highest levels that we provide to them, and we still get to keep them in our family. And it's a great model. It's a great model.
Right.
And what does it do? It means that the teams at the bottom there, though, are also paying to help support that bigger program.
Yeah.
It's an expensive investment. You're talking to get into USL League 2, you got to write a check for $75,000 just to enter, and then pay a normal, your normal annual fees.
Whereas in Europe, it's top down. All the money comes from the top.
For sure.
Because of all of the money that goes in.
Yep.
Also solidarity payments and training compensation. Think of how many players from the United States go and play pro, and then like Michigan Rush, if we had solidarity payments, Michigan Rush would have gotten money for having Christian Pulisic for a year.
Yeah.
But we don't have that.
No, we don't. And again, I mean, it's not. I don't want to be disingenuous to the amateur environment, because it obviously is a huge part of what we do. But it's like we have these conversations a lot with players and teams and say, well, what's the difference between league and league? No, there's no difference. I mean, the USL League 2, of all the semi-professional leagues that we come in contact with, amateur leagues, I'm not even saying it, they run their league the best. They're the best league. From top to bottom, that league is legit the best league from top to bottom. Chris Inman, Joel Nash, those guys are professionals. They do a great job, right? I'm not saying that other leagues don't do a great job, but I'm saying if you're talking about holding yourself to the highest standard possible and trying to deliver on that, USL League 2 is it. Okay? And then you start going from down there, okay, all these other leagues are kind of, but there's like a million leagues now in this country. You've got APSLs,
I just
NPSLs.
saw a picture today.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's insane. Well, what do those leagues offer? What do they offer a player? What do they offer a team? If the goal is to get players to be competitive, why are we charging teams $5,000 a summer to enter into a league in which there is, for the most part, very little probably support and direction, but a lot of mandates? Like you have to do X, Y, Z, and all these other things. And so it's that's why I keep saying soccer in this country is too fragmented, and there's just too much of it. And with all the amateur teams in this area, there are 10 teams, I think there's now 20 teams in Midwest Premier League here in Michigan now. 10 in the East, 10 in the West. And then you have the UPSL, which has 10 teams. You have USL 2 that has 8 teams. What is that? 10 plus, so 20 plus 10 is 30. So we have 38 amateur teams. That's not counting women's teams. So that's 38 amateur teams in this state, of which most of them are in Metro Detroit. How can a fan fall in love with a team if there's 22 teams to pick from in this area?
Unless there was one system. And who allowed all this mess? U.S. Soccer. U.S. Soccer has allowed all these different leagues to pop up and all these different amateur teams. If we had one tiered system, maybe we could sort through it. Like, well, you're in Division 1, Division 2, Division 3.
Remember, everything about soccer is about money. And U.S. Soccer needs 7,000 youth, adult teams to pay $50 a year, initiation fee. And in every club, there's 243 clubs here in Michigan. Multiply that by 50. That's how many clubs? With 10,000 clubs in this country, something like that, some crazy number. All of them are paying a fee to U.S. Soccer, right? That's what supports all this stuff. Is you have to pay some kind of a fee, right? And then every state organization also requires a fee of some kind, right? So everything revolves around money, and that herein lies the problem. Because if we're looking for the best player, the best players right now are currently in their backyard kicking a soccer ball against the wall because they don't have a way of getting to and from a game on a Tuesday because their parents are working 3 jobs.
Yeah.
That's where that player is. The next Lionel Messi, the player that we want in this country, that we want playing on the U.S. men's national team, who is an American, who's in their backyard, does not have the means or the money to get to the environment that they want to get to play soccer. And that's what the player is right now. And we need to find like 30 of them like yesterday.
Oh, man.
Oh, right? That's where they all are. And you want to know why we want that player? Because that player has not been given anything. That player is not entitled. Their parents didn't pay thousands and thousands of dollars for specialized training. That player has something to prove. And that's a player that we want on our team.
Right. And it comes down all the way to culture. It's all about culture. What are we born into? What's our way out of certain situations?
Yeah.
Over there in Europe, or basketball here, football here, it's their way out because there's money in it. And there's ways to be seen. Whereas, okay, well, we also are the only country, I'm pretty sure, that to get to an amateur level, you've made it. College.
Yeah.
Oh, good job. You just signed to play D1 soccer. You've made it.
Yeah.
And that's how we treat it. And it's like, wait a minute. We don't develop pros anymore. We've never developed pros. We've always looked, and what you were saying about the MLS Next, we just look to develop college players, and then they're done at 23, and then they're playing in men's leagues and women's leagues and co-ed leagues for the rest of their career.
Yeah, and if you look at other sports, right? Like I don't think baseball is in this mix, maybe even hockey, but football and basketball for sure. But like, where do most of the players come from in these environments? They come from probably broken homes. They come from a lot of environments where maybe they come from less than, right?
Yeah.
Maybe and they're working their tail off. They're doing things on their own in the environment to get to that next level, which in football and basketball, I mean, more so in football, you need to get into college and play a high level in college to even have a chance of going to the NFL.
Right.
But these players, if you hear, they're all coming from these places, not all of them, but most of them are coming from an environment where they don't have anything. And they're working their tails off to get there.
Yeah.
And, along the way they have to have luck and they have to have, whatever, but they're working their tails off. Basketball is the exact same scenario, right? Your inner city kid is working their tail off, shooting hoops, 100 times a day in their backyard or at their local gym, and then they have some success at high school, and then they go off to college and they have a great success there, and they go in the NBA.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in soccer.
Not
Every
really.
player who's playing in soccer right now across this country, a vast majority of them, if they're playing in the ECNL land, their parents are dropping $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a year to be there, plus to travel.
Yep.
Right? And that and they have the best gear. Right? They're
$300 shoes.
Like we were just talking. So one of our play-by-play guys who lives in Indiana, he's calling all the FC Pride games down there this summer, and he's like, we had this Played Against Sports that wants to partner with us. And I said, well, what can we do for them? Because they want to have ad space on our games. I said, what I would like to do? I would like to partner with them where if a kid needs something, they need shoes, they need shin guards, they need goalie gloves. Yeah, it might be secondhand, but secondhand is better than nothing.
Exactly.
Why don't we partner with them and have them go into that facility, go into that store and get the stuff? It doesn't cost them anything.
Right.
So take whatever you're going to give me in ad dollars and give it back to the kid.
Yeah.
So that mom and dad can take that pressure off of having to get that kid cleats, because now they can have cleats. Yeah, so they're worn a little bit, but
right.
It's still better than not. At least they're broken in.
Yeah.
That's half the battle in soccer cleat land, right? So I thought that'd be like a great partnership. We need more people who are willing to invest in these kids who love the game of soccer but don't have access to transportation to and from.
Yeah.
And don't have the ability, because that, to be fair, it's not a money thing. Because these clubs have monies to give grants, and every club on earth wants to win. Right? So winning is the metrics.
Right.
Well, if there's a kid somewhere that can't get there, it's not I can't afford it, they'll find a way to give them a grant. But now it's about how do they get them there. That's the thing. These kids don't know that, one, they can probably have a grant, and two, they need transportation. Because mom and dad can't get them there. They can't drive them there. So we have to find a way to get that kid to and from a training session 3 times a week and to and from games a couple times a weekend. If you can do that, we'll find those diamonds in the rough, because they're out there.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. And that's the player that's going to make U.S. men's national soccer better.
Isn't it crazy how you could be passionate about soccer and be in so many different realms of it? You can love the game, and you could be a ref,
Yep.
a player, obviously, a coach, or a producer.
Yeah.
What is your title, like right now? Would you call yourself
Head janitor.
I feel you on that one.
I mean, president and founder. I mean, you can call me that. But yeah, I mean, I wear a lot of hats. I mean, the goal now is to try to get everybody else to wear some hats so I don't have to wear as many. But,
Are you gonna delegate? Yeah.
Delegation's half the battle.
How many high school games do you guys do?
The girl season's light. In the fall, we did 60.
So is MSN is this just like a part of PMG?
What's that?
The Michigan Soccer Network.
So Michigan Soccer Network will start with the whole thing started with them, with us and MSN. That was localized here in Michigan, and then we wanted to take this thing national because along the way, when we were doing all this, we were being asked to go to Ohio to do games. We were going asked to go to California, and I'm like, man, I go MSN is really kind of like weird to go out and it's weird to say it. So I said, look, we got to create a national brand, and that's how we created the National Soccer Network.
Yeah.
And so NSN is now the main component, the main part of that. Premier Media Group is the parent company, and then NSN kind of falls underneath that, and then MSN, and then we also have a brand called MI Sports Network, which is for Michigan sports, which allows us to still do high school games.
Okay.
But I can do all sports. I didn't limit myself with soccer.
What goes into your ranking system for the Michigan high school?
Yeah, so we don't rank. That's all done by the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association. So the coaches do that.
Oh, so you just do a show announcing their rankings.
Yeah. It started with us back. When I first started doing this in 22, I called them and said, "Hey, you guys release your rankings every Sunday. Let's do a show." And I said, "But here's what we want to do. We want to be the official partner. So let's not release it to anybody else until Monday. Let me have Sundays." And for 3 years they let us do that, and up until this year. So
that's sweet.
Yeah. And they end up opening it up to other organizations here locally as well.
Do you do that with like all state and everything?
We would like to do that with other states. It's just a matter of trying to get that going.
What about end of season awards?
Yep,
like
we did.
We did
Dream Team reveal.
Dream Team.
Yep, yeah, we did that. We'd host that. I don't think we're going to do that this year, and that's for a number of reasons. But yeah, it was a huge undertaking because we would receive the Dream Team reveal list on like the Monday after the state finals.
Yeah.
And then we would be pulling a show together either that Tuesday or Wednesday. So we're inviting everybody into we did it at a restaurant in Troy. We'd be inviting them there. We do a live show, and we're trying to get everybody to come in 2 days. So you're trying to plan a party in 2 days.
Yeah.
It's hectic. It's fun as hell.
Right.
But it's chaotic.
Yeah.
So.
What's your podcast?
Inside the Game. We do it Monday through Friday from 9 to 10. So we just talk all things soccer, very much like what you're doing here, but we do it live.
Where can they find you?
On YouTube and Roku on the National Soccer Network.
All right.
Yeah.
Man, it's crazy. It's nice to talk. So every single time I come to Michigan, I plan on doing one of these like podcast road shows or I Hate Soccer road shows because I want to talk because I've been in Buffalo 10 years now, and they are so sick of me talking about Michigan soccer and how different it is because we have obviously a bigger population here, but we have a older soccer population.
Yeah.
And why don't you just go back to Michigan? Or why don't you, like, if it's so great, why don't you just still coach us? Because I don't, like, one, I'm a big fish in a small pond over there. I'm a very small fish here.
I mean, to be fair, you should be moving to Kansas City. I mean, to be fair.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's soccer capital of the country.
And that is a huge soccer. It's a huge soccer league.
It is.
So,
are you in Kansas City yet?
We might have teams. I don't know. There's 150 teams I have to go through. It's a process. We might be.
So you're always looking for more teams.
Oh my gosh, yes.
All these.
Yeah.
I mean,
our weekly goal is to bring in $20,000 of new contracts a week. So that's our current goal. So
that's new.
Yeah, contracts? New contracts. Yeah, new contracts. I think last week we brought in close to 30,000 Monday through Friday, so something like that.
That's just new contracts.
Yeah, new contracts, new bookings. Yep. Yeah.
What's LOC? I see WPSL.
Oh, league. It's LFC. It's League for Clubs. It's a new league that came out. Yeah, it came out. It's got the 45 teams. Yep. So.
Dude, thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
I'm glad Jim hooked us up. So what's Dan doing?
Nothing. He just sits here all day long, kind of takes up some space. I'm just kidding.
Because he's still doing his writing.
Yeah,
and
he writes. So we're multiple phases of what we do. The first phase is obviously streaming.
Yep.
The second phase is news stories. So Dan writes all of our news stories and helps facilitate all the news press releases that come in from all the leagues across the country. I think we're getting about 30 to 40 emails a day now from teams across the country with press releases that he has to go through and make their way to our website,
right?
The nationalsoccernetwork.com. So that's the second phase, is the media side, as far as news stories and things like that. And then the third phase is education. So we're in the process of rolling out NSN Nation, which is our player, coach, referee, and parent education platform.
Right.
Which will be a place where it's peer-to-peer education. So we actually get parents and players and referees and coaches to do their own 8-week or 8-session training, but it's not based on tactical. It's based on philosophy and things like that, and allow parents to and all those different components to kind of come together to learn the game of soccer and away from their peers, Wow. So that's the next phase of what we do. So,
how many? All of your games?
Yeah.
Are they on those teams' YouTube channel?
No, they're on
ours. Are they
ours.
on your own?
They're on ours, yeah.
Are you guys monetized on YouTube? That might be private.
Oh yeah, we're monetized. Yeah.
How long did that take you?
We were monetizing back in 22. But we were getting at that time, I don't know, $20 every. And the way YouTube works, no, so not every stream. We were getting about $20 every month then.
Okay.
And then you would get paid out once you got over $100 threshold. That's how YouTube works.
Mm-hmm.
But we're anticipating this month, after all of our views, we'll be right around $2,000 in monetization, something like that.
How many subscribers do you have?
Right now, 6,400.
It doesn't really. The subscribers.
Yeah,
Don't
well,
really
in order to get
to
into the YouTube platform, you have to have 1,000 subscribers.
Yep.
And you have to have over 4,000 watch hours.
hours.
Yeah, we do 4,000 watch hours in a month. Hang on here. I'll actually show it to you. This is kind of the fun part about what we do.
So you do 4,000 hours a month.
Yeah, we do. I'll tell you right now what we do. So this is 6401.
That's really good.
So 6401 is what we have right now. Just in the last 28 days, 53,000 views, 2,700 watch hours, and 240 new subscribers. So, and then when you look at the last 90 days, 116,000, 10,000 watch hours, 589 new subscribers. But we're about to go from basically 100 games a month to about 400 in the next couple weeks, right? So when that goes to 400, our views will go through the roof, right? So,
and that's just to supplement your income because these teams are paying a fee per game.
Yep, per game.
Now, do you have packages for entire seasons and everything?
Yeah. So for example, we offer 3 different packages. The first one is if you want us to send out a camera operator, a manned camera, that's more expensive because I got to pay somebody.
Right.
We just lost our feed thing here. Let's just do that. So we charge for that. That's $500 for a game, and that includes commentary, production, instant replay, all the graphics that we do. If you have your own camera and want to do it, we just charge you $100 less, so it's $400. If you happen to have a VO camera, or a huddle, it's $300.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's how you could do ECNL games or MLS Next or not college games, I guess.
Yeah, college games we do. We're also in the process of rolling out something called our indoor TV package, and indoor TV will be where we actually install AI cameras in facilities all across the country and then just call games. So just imagine in any indoor facility in the country, just have a camera. We tap into that anytime we want to and just start streaming games.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
What kind of camera would you use?
Well, we have the different partners. We have partnerships with Spidio, VO, Huddle. We're working on this.
You could do you could just set up a VO.
Yeah, but what we actually are going to do is probably a hardwire internet into the camera at the facility that gives me direct access without ever having to do anything other than just, tapping into it. So.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And we have some things. We have some contracts we just signed that we haven't announced yet, but they're really exciting. We just partnered with this new 3v3 tournament and we're doing 3v3 tournaments now. So that we're doing that in Naperville in July. We just signed a contract with for upcoming professional tournament called NISA Cup, which will take place in Colorado.
What's the 3v3 tournament?
It's called it's GOYC Cup.
Okay.
They're actually based out of New York. They're raised here in Michigan, based out of New York. They just did one at Wixom in Toka Wixom,
Okay.
and now they're doing one in Toka Naperville. And so they contacted us and said, "Hey, we love what you're doing. Can you do this?" So we're gonna go down there and stream the entire tournament for a weekend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
My buddy and I from Buffalo, he is doing those air pitch 3v3s, and he wants to create basically the Gus Macker of soccer.
Okay.
If you remember Gus Macker tournaments.
I do.
And he's really, because he's actually kind of working with the guys at Gus Macker, and I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Streaming the 3v3.
Like we're gonna buy like floral tuxedo things, or like get really kind of cool with it, and have like some really fun, like kind of like just really have fun with it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that, and I've been talking to teams here locally. We want to do our own tournament, like our own tournament, where we actually go get a facility, rent it out for the weekend, and just have teams come in and just they get the full broadcast experience, right, as part of the package, right? Just a full-on broadcast. Just make it you know what I mean? Like we want to do our own tournament and get a cash prize. I would like to do our own league too. I'd like to actually do our own league, because then I can control all the things that I currently can't control. But
I'm still just blown away, man. I love it.
yeah, it's fun. We have a good time here.
I'm just a one-man show. I have two, like, $300 camcorders. I have this Zoom H6. These aren't my normal mics. These are travel mics. But, like, and then I just look at all the stuff. What's the most important thing? Not to get too technical.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most? Is it camera? Is it audio? Lighting? What do you think? For the viewer at home.
Well, I think there's a bunch of different. It depends on the scenario too, right? If we're talking about a game, I would argue that even with a shitty feed, great commentary is what leads the way, right? So we teach our commentators here to be very passionate, very energetic, and like just. I always say this, you have to like you're shot out of a cannon. When a ball is going towards the goal, you have to just shoot off, man. Because if you don't, then this is what we're doing this for.
Right.
But great commentary, I think, solves a lot of the problems that might come from the video or the lighting or even the bad game, right? But because again, we just did a game on Thursday. It was like a 7-0 beatdown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was terrible. Yeah. But if you're talking about podcasting, all of the above, right? A good camera, good audio, right? And audio can come in a lot of different ways. I mean, I know you have these Audio Technica dynamic mics. I think these are dynamics.
Yeah.
But we use all of our podcasters use a varying degree of technology, right? To pull these things off. A good webcam. I use an Elgato webcam for our podcast. I have a Shure SM7B microphone. That's like a $700 microphone.
That's like the best.
That's the best. Yeah, you can't get any better than that. I mean, there's other ones that are maybe you can argue are better, but I've had great success with that.
That's my first. I actually think I'm going to update cameras first, and then I would like to do the Shure mics.
Yeah.
But I like this has been just like a little like passion project of mine. And I'm like, let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
And then my Instagram is just going crazy through the roof because it's just little
clips,
little
reels,
little reels, and I'm like, oh, well maybe there's something to this. And then I see what you've built, and I'm like, whoa, there's another like level to this.
Yeah, I mean every workstation is about $5,000, right? So give or take, right? So you have each one because you have to have these different components, and we'll have more of them. I mean, our payroll on a monthly basis is about $43,000. So that's my payroll is. So it's so that gives you some insight. That's why I take this very seriously. So,
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
It's a huge operation.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't realize it. It's a lot going on.
You said you have a guy in Indiana that's working for you.
Yeah,
that's
so
doing the Indiana Pride games.
Yeah. So he actually he lives in Indiana. So we all actually call our Real Central New Jersey games as well, because we can actually so we can produce the game here. The camera operator is in New Jersey, and then our commentator is in Indiana. Right. So he can watch the game from his home in Indiana, from a feed we send to him, and then we put that all together, and that's what goes out to the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think about like how you could, of people that you could partner with in New York. Like, there's a sportscaster. Well, he's a retired sportscaster, but he does play-by-play for all the high school networks in New York.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah, we could totally work with him, and he can sit at his house, and we just send him feeds. Because like I said, today we've got games that start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that go all the way until the last kickoff is at 10 p.m. tonight in California. So, I mean, we have commentators that will do a game at 5, 7, and 10.
do you usually do 2-man crews or
One.
1-man?
One commentator. Yeah. Some games that they require it, we'll put them into 2, but most will just go 1.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll end this because there's so much.
I get it.
I could talk to you forever.
I can see.
I mean, what's your biggest social media platform that you use?
So, I mean, obviously, we're still building our Instagram, but, Twitter, that's National Soccer TV. That's got, I think, 15,000 followers.
National Soccer TV.
Yeah, National Soccer TV.
Okay.
Or Nat Soccer TV.
Nat Soccer TV.
Instagram, I think it's the same thing. We're still trying to build that. That one's the harder one to build. You have to be really active on that, So, and then I think we're on TikTok. Nat Soccer TV on TikTok. Facebook, Nat Soccer TV. I think that's got 1,500, 2,000 followers.
And then YouTube.
YouTube is Nat Soccer TV and National Soccer TV, and that one's got, like I said, 6,400 subscribers.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this, dude.
I appreciate you coming in, man. This is great.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I hate soccer.